Almost 5,000 gods worshipped. Is yours the right one? Well, hello again. Welcome to another video. And today we are offering up a response to an atheist meme that I have seen online a few times. Let's put it up on the screen here. Colorful, I guess we could say. But the meme reads, there are almost 5,000 gods being worshipped by humanity, but don't worry, only yours is right. I thought it might be interesting today to take a few minutes and to offer a response to that meme from the perspective of a Christian. So, in regard to this meme, I guess the first thing that I would say, just to make it clear the point that is being made here, is that for us as Christians, our faith, I guess, should be a matter of question because of all of these gods being worshipped. And I guess maybe we're just really fortunate, or maybe they wouldn't even say that. Maybe they would say that we're really arrogant, perhaps, to presume that just us have it right in terms of worshiping the right God. So, how should we respond to that as Christians? And I guess the very first thing that I would say by way of a response to this meme is that truth is not something that is diluted by belief, right? If we think about the nation of Israel in Exodus chapter 32, Exodus 32 is the golden calf episode in the history of Israel. So we find Israel at Mount Sinai, of course, and what you find there are the people of Israel who have a history and they have a relationship with the one true God. And yet, what happens in this chapter of scripture, while Moses is meeting with God up on the mountain, the people make for themselves a golden calf, and they say, "This is your God, Israel." So they fabricate this thing out of their jewelry, and they decide, we're going to worship this thing. This thing is going to be a god to us. So this would be rather obviously, this would be an example of the people raising up what we would consider to be a false god. But in what way does this golden calf impact the true God? In what way does the existence of the golden calf make God less God? In what way does the people's worship of the golden calf make God less God? It doesn't impact it at all, right? God is still God. God is still doing what he's doing God stuff. But you've got a bunch of misled people over here, and they decide, well, let's just follow this golden calf instead. But at the end of the day, the misled people are just hurting themselves. They're not making God less God. Nobody reads through Exodus chapter 32. Nobody reads through the text and says, okay, back up. We maybe have misunderstood who God is, because I thought he was the all-powerful guy in heaven, and now this golden calf character's on the scene. Well, this changes everything. We've got to back up, and we've got to understand, we've got to try to comprehend who God truly is, right? Nobody comes to that conclusion, because quite obviously, God hasn't changed at all. All that's happened here is that a false God has entered into the narrative. Some people have been misled, but it doesn't impugn the integrity or the authenticity of the true God. It just doesn't, right? It doesn't impact in any way. So the first point that I would say in responding to this meme is that who or what God is has absolutely nothing to do with what people believe about him. He is not the product of the imaginations of people. God either exists independently or he doesn't. And if he exists as a specific something. He doesn't just mold himself based on a conglomeration of people's beliefs. Even outside of the realm of theology, if we don't think about God for a minute, sometimes I'll put it this way when I talk to people about the nature of God and I guess the perception of God. Imagine a bunch of students are sitting down and they're working on math problems, and imagine they're struggling a little bit, so they're getting a whole array of different answers to these math problems. We wouldn't conclude, well, I guess there's no truth in math, right? We wouldn't come to that conclusion. We wouldn't say, well, I guess we can't trust math, or we can't depend upon anything in math. I guess there's no valuable truths in math because of this variation of beliefs. No, what we would conclude, if people are coming to different conclusions, coming to different answers, what we're seeing are people struggling to see reality clearly, people that are struggling to understand the truth. But there is truth in math. We just need to figure out what it is. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing I would point out about the meme, if we think about the notion of the numbers presented here, I assume the notion of numbers presented is intended to form part of the argument that 5,000, almost 5,000 gods worshipped, that forms, I guess, in some way, some part of the issue on the table. But my question would be, do we need to be concerned, right? The idea of 5,000 other gods worshipped, is that an issue that we need to be concerned about? I'm not sure that we do, right? We just talked about the idea of math. Well, consider another analogy that leans upon math. If we ask the question, what 2 plus 2 is, the answer is a number, right? No prizes so far. The answer to 2 plus 2 is a number. And considering that the answer to 2 plus 2 is a number, well, how many possible answers are there? How many different numbers are there? There are a lot of different numbers. Millions, billions, infinite possibilities of numbers that could be proposed as the answer to 2 plus 2. However, there's only one correct answer to 2 plus 2, right? There's only one answer. So the point being here that I think it's suggested that there's some kind of weakness in the position of the Christian to believe that our one answer is the only right answer and all the other potential or proposed answers are wrong. But I'll sometimes say to people, right, 2 plus 2 has only one right answer. Some questions have only one right answer. That's okay. That's not a weakness, right? When it comes to God, do we need to be concerned about the multitude of other possibilities on the table? No, I don't think we do. Do we need to be concerned that we uphold only one answer as being the right answer? No, I don't think we need to be concerned about that either. And as we're talking about the numbers here from this meme, we talked about 5,000 gods being worshipped. The meme also says, only yours is right. And I assume here that the intent behind the wording is to sort of isolate us to some extent, to suggest that, out of the thousands of gods being worshipped, out of the billions of people walking around on the planet, that it's just me by myself and my view of God, and that's all it is. And if that's the intent, if that's the intended message to be conveyed here, of course, the first thing I would say is that's factually wrong, right? There are an estimated 2 billion Christians alive in the world today. And as Christians, if you were to sit us down and you were to ask us about the nature of God, who is he, where did he come from, what's he like, we would say similar things, right? We would give similar answers to those questions. So the first thing about only yours is right, well, it's not really only mine that's right. It's me and 2 billion of my friends. And we would say, as I said, very, very similar things about the nature of God. And of course, that's 2 billion of my friends that are alive in the world today. Of course, billions more Christians going back through history. So if the intent by saying only yours is right, if the intent is to kind of isolate it down to only you, I don't think that argument really holds a lot of water. It's clearly not only me. But honestly, to that point, I don't think that even matters either way, because as we suggested before, even if 99% of the world has the same view of God, it doesn't necessarily make them right. And even if my beliefs about God were just me and nobody else, it doesn't make me wrong, right? In Genesis, just before the flood came upon the earth, you have Noah and his family following God, and literally nobody else in the world, right? That's a stunning minority of people that are following the one true God, but it turns out they were right. So having a lot of like-minded friends or having none at all really doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make you more right or more wrong when it comes to your understanding of the nature of God. Now, the last thing I would offer up in response to this meme is that it comes from an atheist standpoint, right? So the idea of 5,000 gods being worshipped, the reasonable conclusion that I think is intended to be implied is that since there's 5,000 gods being worshipped, then I guess none of them are true. But my question would be, 5,000, none are true. I would say 5,000 gods, one is true. Why would no gods be more of a rational conclusion than one god? Right? Because that seems to be the implication of the meme. The implication of the meme seems to be 5,000, so there must be none. Well, I'm saying 5,000, but there's one, and I'm not sure, from a rational, logical standpoint, I'm not sure how this 5,000 gods being worshipped leads us naturally and logically to 0 gods. I'm missing a piece there, a piece of the argument, I guess. Imagine, I'll throw another example out there. Imagine a big bag of cash, and I set it before you, and I remind you of all the thousands, millions, maybe, I really don't know, of ways that people can counterfeit currency. And I'll show, technologies, and I'll show diagrams, and I'll show different things that people have done throughout history to manufacture counterfeit money. And then I'll put this bag of cash in front of you. And so given that scenario, would you assume that every bill in the bag is a legitimate, authentic bill? Well, you could assume that, but given that we know that counterfeiting is real, and given that we know all of the multitude of ways that people can counterfeit money, to just blindly assume that every bill in the bag is authentic, well, that'd be, it's possible, but that would be a big assumption, right? To just assume that. But the opposite side of the coin, if you were to assume that every bill in the bag is counterfeit, that none of the bills in the bag are legitimate, wouldn't that be just as big of an assumption? Right? To just assume they're all good would be a big leap, but to assume they're all bad would be a big leap. Just because counterfeit currency exists doesn't mean that all currency is counterfeit, and it doesn't mean that all currency is not counterfeit. It just means that counterfeiting exists. I think the right answer in that scenario, what we ought to do is to evaluate the bills based on what information is available to us, what is known to us, what information is revealed, and look at what holds up as true. Look at all of that information and then draw conclusions from there. I think that is the right thing to do, rather than making a giant assumptive leap either way. Which, in fact, on that point, is ultimately the call of the Christian gospel, right? The call of the Christian gospel is to lay on the table, this is who God is, this is what he has done for us, and now I'd like you to consider that, and to consider, does that resonate with you? What does that mean to you? To make that evaluation based on revelation, rather than just saying they're all bad. So that would be my response to this meme. I guess if we wanted to throw something back to the author, like if somebody shared this with you in the context of a conversation, perhaps, maybe to promote some back and forth dialogue, I might ask the question, does 5,000 claims of gods necessarily lead us to a conclusion of no gods? And if so, how does that work? Like, help me to bridge that gap. Explain it to me logically. That might be a good next step if you're having a conversation with an atheist and you want somewhere to take this. But other than that, that is my video for today. I thought it was an interesting meme. As I say, it's colorful, if nothing else. It looks kind of interesting. But I wanted to offer up a response to it from a Christian standpoint. Hope it has been helpful for you. As per usual, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Feel free to leave a comment if you agree, if you disagree, if you would like to discuss further. Thank you again for watching. Hope you're doing well. God bless you. Have a good day.